Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Martina Navratilova. This name has been marked in the history of tennis and will definitely not be forgotten. So today, let's explore the incredible journey of this woman, who not only amassed achievements but also broke barriers and shaped women's tennis in a way that no one ever imagined. Get ready to know every detail of the career and personality of this champion, who redefined the meaning of persistence and innovation. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're new here, especially if you love player biographies like this one. We've got some incredible stories lined up. With 59 Grand Slam titles throughout her career, including 18 singles titles, 31 doubles titles, and 10 mixed doubles titles, Martina Navratilova is undoubtedly a living legend and one of the most iconic figures in the world of tennis. Born on October 18, 1956 in Prague, in what was then Czechoslovakia, Martina Navratilova revealed her talent for tennis at a very young age, and quickly the sport became an escape from the challenges she faced in a country under a communist regime. The rigid environment and the limitations imposed by the government created difficulties for those who wanted to pursue an international career in sports, but that never discouraged her. Determined to reach the top, Martina began to carve out a solitary path, seeking opportunities that could harness her talent. Early in her career, she already showed herself to be a fierce competitor. Martina's teenage years were marked by a series of victories in regional and national competitions, but her determination soon led her to seek the international scene. At 18, she was already playing in major tennis tournaments around the world, reaching her first Grand Slam final at the US Open in 1975. Although she did not win that final, Martina showed the world that a new star was rising. Shortly thereafter, she decided she needed a more conducive environment to grow as a tennis player and as a person. In 1978, at just 21 years old, Martina won her first Grand Slam title at Wimbledon, defeating the overwhelming favorite and compatriot Chris Evert in an epic battle. This title not only marked her official entry into the club of great champions, but also signified the beginning of one of the most iconic rivalries in tennis. From then on, Navratilova and Evert engaged in high-level matches, pushing the limits of their abilities. This rivalry, which spanned over a decade, was crucial for women's tennis and attracted millions of viewers to the sport. As we entered the 1980s, Martina's career began to reach new heights. In 1982, she hired the famous coach Renee Richards, who helped to refine her playing style and transformed her into an even more competitive athlete. With unparalleled dedication, she incorporated intensive physical training and revolutionized how female athletes prepared for the sport. The result was a series of extraordinary victories. From 1982 to 1986, Martina had an impressive dominance on the courts. In 1983, she won singles titles at Wimbledon, the US Open, and the Australian Open, solidifying her name at the top of world tennis. That same year, she achieved a near unprecedented feat by finishing the season with just one loss in 86 matches, something that practically no other player, male or female, had achieved. Her serve and volley style, combined with controlled aggression and precise technique, transformed her game and established her as one of the most unbeatable tennis players in history. When we talk about Wimbledon, it's impossible not to highlight Martina Navratilova's absolute dominance. She won the tournament 9 times, with 6 of those victories coming consecutively between 1982 and 1987, a record that still stands today. Wimbledon was her home and the stage for some of her most memorable matches. In 1982, in a historic match, Martina defeated Evert in 3 sets in the final, thrilling the crowd and cementing her position as the Queen of Grass. This streak was interrupted only in 1988, when Steffi Graf began to emerge as a new force in women's tennis, but Martina continued to compete in finals and win other tournaments. By the end of the 1980s, a new generation of players emerged and began to challenge Martina's reign. Steffi Graf in particular was one of the most feared competitors. In 1987, Graf defeated Navratilova at the French Open, ending her unbeaten streak at the Grand Slam in Paris. In 1988, the two met again in the Wimbledon final, but this time it was Graf who took home the trophy, marking the beginning of a new era in women's tennis. Although Martina was still at the peak of her abilities, the pressure and talent of the younger opponents represented a new challenge. But even while facing Graf and other rising challengers like Monica Seles and Gabriela Sabatani, Martina never stopped competing at a high level. Between 1989 and 1994, she continued to excel in doubles and mixed doubles tournaments, always remaining competitive in singles, even as victories became more challenging over time. In addition to her titles and rivalries, Martina had memorable matches that are still remembered today by tennis fans. One of those moments was the 1978 Wimbledon final when she defeated Chris Evert to win her first Grand Slam. Another unforgettable match occurred in 1984, when she faced Hana Miklova in the US Open final. Martina completely dominated the game, winning with an impeccable performance, solidifying her dominance in the sport that year. Another historic moment was the 1987 US Open final against Steffi Graf. Even in a match where Graf was the favorite, Martina proved her skill and strength by winning, demonstrating that she still had plenty of determination to compete with the new generations. This victory was one of the last times she was able to assert herself with complete superiority in a Grand Slam. She was not only a top-level tennis player, but also a dedicated activist and advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and women's rights. At a time when the sports world was less inclusive and much more conservative, Martina was one of the first prominent athletes to come out publicly about her sexual orientation. This act of courage exposed her to prejudice and criticism, but at the same time, it opened doors for other athletes and influenced discussions about diversity and inclusion in sports. Martina used her platform and influence to fight for equality and better conditions for women in sports. To this day, she continues to speak out on social and political issues, being an active voice for human rights, an example of how athletes can make a difference outside the courts. In the early 1990s, at nearly 40 years old, Navratilova was still playing at an exceptionally high level, but decided it was time to slow down. In 1994, at 37 years old, she made her last appearance in a Grand Slam singles tournament at Wimbledon. The public was eager to see her farewell, and the tournament was filled with emotion. Even without winning the title, Martina delivered an admirable performance and was honored for her brilliant career. However, her passion for tennis never diminished, and she continued competing in doubles and mixed doubles tournaments until 2006, when she finally decided to retire at the age of 49 after winning the US Open in mixed doubles with Bob Bryan. This victory made her the oldest champion of a Grand Slam tournament, a record that further solidified her position as one of the greatest of all time. Martina Navratilova left an extraordinary legacy, not only as an athlete but as a figure who challenged the status quo and paved her way for future generations of women in tennis. Her dedication to the sport, coupled with her commitment to physical and technical excellence, redefined what was possible for a female tennis player and inspired athletes like Serena Williams, Venus Williams, and other players who followed in her footsteps. Her name is eternally etched in the history of sports, and her achievements stand as a testament to her talent, discipline, and courage. She not only revolutionized the playing style in women's tennis, but also opened doors and broke barriers at a time when being different was not easy. Her career is an example of how talent and hard work can transform a person into a legend. And her stance on life made her a true icon, not only in sports, but in causes that are fundamental to society today. Hey, if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.